Hello, morning. Hello,
Hello, good morning.
morning, Javier. Everything is
Morning.
okay.
Yeah,
Morning.
morning. Okay, so what I'm going to do, Daniela, is I'm going to give you the presenter role, okay?
Yeah,
So then you need to accept it, okay? Can you see there's a
yeah.
okay? So then you should be presenter and you should be able to show your screen. Can you just do that first?
Uh, okay. Please close confidential windows. When ready,
Okay.
show my screen. Show
No,
my screen. I click this. I have to click
yes.
this.
Yes,
Okay.
but when you show your screen, scroll down to where you have your presentation. So you only show your PPT. Okay. So click on
Nothing
the
happened.
initial PPT. Nothing
Uh,
happened.
Nothing happened for the moment. Okay, let me see. Okay, audience sharing, show screen, show
Shows,
screen.
yeah, and you show your presentation.
People can see paused version of your screen. Click to resume to screen sharing. No, nothing happened. I don't know, but my slide. Do you have my slides? Do you have my slides? The slides are
Yeah.
already uploaded on the platform. Yeah, and I don't know
Let me
why.
just call my colleague a minute.
Yeah. No, aspetta ancora un attimo. Comunque, sì, puoi accostare così non rompo le balle agli altri. No, non è a mezzogiorno, quindi stiamo facendo le prove. Because show screen. Okay. Okay. My screen with a list of things like Global Web Energy Highlight Agenda.
Screen's not showing up.
Yeah. Webinar Energy IDC presentation DR, testo, I don't know why. I have to show this one, I have to click on this one.
Yes.
Okay, I see my presentation with the text, but I don't want to publish the text. Sorry.
Okay.
because the text is only for me.
You can put it on presentation mode, Daniela.
Okay.
Yeah, you know where you see
Yeah. But I cannot because sorry. Let me shift the window. Okay, presentation mode. Presentation mode. Yeah. Go.
Okay, perfect. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
and then look, starting from the first go up to the first slide. Why it's very slow, very slow, but because I don't know why, in which way you can go to the first. This is the last one. I had to go to the first page. Let me see in which way we can go up. Okay. Page up, page down. Okay, very simple. This is my presentation, okay? And then the presentation of Javier and Alistair, where I can find this other presentation.
You should
Or
have. Yeah, you can either change presenter. We can change presenter when it comes to their turn, or you can upload them. Maybe it's good. We will pass on the presentation
yeah.
mode to each of them when it's their turn. Okay.
Yeah. I pass the
Okay.
presentation mode
Yeah.
to okay.
Yeah.
And please tell me where I have to click.
So you do. Can you see, for example, do you have the icons with the big? You have to go to screen sharing. Okay.
Show application. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Show application. Sharing stops gives change presenter.
Yes.
Okay. When I get at the end of my presentation, I click change presenter. Okay.
Yes. And
Yeah.
you need to click on. Can you see the difference between the attendees and the staff?
Staff. Audience view. Audience view. Audience view. No.
Attendees, yeah.
No.
No.
No. Audience view
Then I
on.
will.
Okay, but anyway, let me try the change presenter just
Yeah.
to be.
Okay.
Okay, Javier, for
Javier, yeah,
example.
morning, Javier. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. You're all
Yeah, thanks, Javier. Are
You're
you
welcome.
sure? The question is, are you sure you want to make Javier presenter? Yes, of course.
Yes. Yes. And then he would
Yeah.
accept. So let's just try it with your presentation and then Javier.
And at okay, and so Javier,
Perfect. Okay.
you have a control,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yes. Alistair hasn't joined yet, so but I can maybe just drop him a line, or I can talk to him privately in the chat to explain. Okay. Maybe we could start with Javier and then but we still got time. It's 11:44, so maybe we can wait a few minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But,
can you see my
okay.
screen on
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
presenter
Javier.
mode, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And
great.
when Javier will finish, he will change presenter and go to
Yeah.
Alistair
Yes.
directly.
Yes.
Okay.
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 So Javier, you go to Alistair, and then question and answer. I have a question from. I'm going to say that questions are coming from attendees.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to tell that we'll answer to the other question the next day. At the moment, we are going to make this question to Javier, and I will read. Do you expect this use case to be implemented in the next futures as we agreed the past day, and the other one with the Alistairs? Okay, and then so please, Giorgio is coming
Oh,
also in this room, and at the end,
hello, Giorgio.
when Alistair will finish, he will change the presenter and put me again. And
Yes.
put, yeah.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
Alistair, I hope Alistair will know this thing, but anyway.
Okay, I
So.
will give you back the control so we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Alistair's just joining us now.
So yes,
He
this is
hasn't quite
again
engaged yet.
my control. Okay. Then the passage between Javier and Alistair is a direct passage. So
Yes.
okay, I take the control again at the end of Alistair's presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay. And sorry, what about the agenda at the beginning of the session? I have have to say something about the agenda and introduce Javier and Alistair, or it's better to go ahead because the
No.
agenda is already shared. Okay.
I would introduce them and tell them what the webinar is about and welcome everybody to it and say that we hope they find it useful. Alistair is now online. Morning, Alistair. Can
Good
you hear
morning.
us?
Alistair.
Good morning. Okay.
Alistair,
Yeah,
morning.
Morning.
I can hear you
So right,
fine, yeah.
Alistair, do you understand? So you will see on the icon where you can do your screen sharing, you can see a change presenter mode, the icon with the two screens. Okay, so when Alistair has finished giving his presentation, you will change presenter. Okay, let's just try that now. I will give you presenter. Okay, so I have to confirm, and then you have to accept. Okay, there's a little box that pops up on the screen, and you accept to be presenter.
I've
Okay,
clicked that, yeah.
and then you go to show your screen. So you click on show screen, and you just click on your actual presentation, and you go into presentation mode. Shall we just try that a minute just to see if it works?
Okay.
I can see it coming up now. Okay, perfect. That's great, Alistair. So when you've finished your presentation, you then change the presenter back to Daniela.
Okay.
Okay. And then for the questions and answers, I will unmute everybody. The panelists. You as the panelists. So Daniela, Javier, and Alistair. Okay.
Okay. So for question, when I give the question to Javier, I have to press something or not, because you are telling me that you unmute directly, Javier. It's okay. I don't have to do anything. only to read out the question. Okay. It's this.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Well, I'm just checking with my colleague if we can unmute the participants and pass the floor to them directly. That might make it a bit more interactive, because I have the possibility of unmuting people. Okay.
I don't know, but in my experience, this could be quite risky, because sometimes people is going to ask us stupid things, believe me, and I prefer because we have not a lot of time. I prefer to go ahead with already agreed question, because anyway I'm going to say to all connected people that we are going to answer their question in the next days, and we collect this question, and we will answer. So this is I think it's okay and easy, but the first page, when the webinar will start, the first page is this page about my presentation, or you have a cover for the attendees?
No, I would go back to the main. I would go back to your first presentation, and I can make a note of the questions and also help you with the questions.
Okay, so this page that I'm seeing at the moment is the first page that also the connected people is seeing. Okay. So I welcome everybody, blah blah blah, speaking on this page. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then let me see if it's work. No.
Yes, because if people can see the agenda, then they can remember which panelists they want to ask a question to, maybe specifically, or if it's a question that both of them can answer. Okay, so we'll do it like that.
Okay.
So I can't see anything shared at the moment. Is that have you shared it, or?
No, you can just see the main thing. We can go back.
Il link per collegarsi. Lei non te l'ha mandato? Ma come collegarti come partecipante o come cosa? Come attendee? Perché non lo so. Sul global dove ti sei registrato, no? Tu ti sei registrato. Global 5G, sorry, we are speaking in Giorgio because where is l'ho trovato. He found it, sorry.
Has he got it? Is it that okay? I've just muted a few people.
No.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so let me see. Show my screen. Okay, no, this way.
Presentation mode.
But I don't know why, because if I put show my screen, the presentation is going at the end. I don't know why. I don't want
Well,
this.
that's right now.
And
That's perfect. Yeah. Okay.
thi-
Okay. Okay.
this is the first page. Okay,
Mhm.
going to the second page. Okay, all right. Okay, okay. And at the end, Javier, and at the end of the Alistair, and at the end, me again with the question, with the two questions, and then people when I can see the list of the question coming from people.
It appears on the bottom of the screen. You can see questions,
Okay.
but I can also ask the questions. Daniela,
Yes.
don't worry.
Okay. Chat. Where type a message here. Here. Hi.
No, it's above it. It's above the chat. It's the questions. You see
Attendees.
webcam, attendees,
Attendees.
polls, questions.
I don't see attendees. I see attendees 12 of 100. Chat, trust it to me private, blah blah. Hi. Let me see. Send. Okay. 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 So I think that if we will end 5 minutes early before 1 o'clock, it will be a problem. Or if we end after, it's not a problem. No, no.
It should be okay. There's nothing scheduled
Okay,
today apart from this webinar. Mhm.
okay, 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 okay. Sorry, Giorgio doesn't find the link to connect to the webinar. Yeah, in is the address that you sent in the past day. Could you
Yep.
send it again?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's simple that. Because I don't want to touch my PC.
No.
So which time it is? 5 minutes?
Yes, we have 5 minutes. So I would say everybody have a breather, have a drink of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Giorgio? No?
I've just sent
No.
it now. I've just sent it
Ah,
now.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to mute everybody apart from you, Daniela, for this when
Yeah.
we start it. Okay, because it's going to start in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, so I'll just send a little message to everybody in the chat to say that the webinar will start in 3 minutes, okay?
Yeah, I start talking when at 12 and 12 a minute, 12 to 12 1 2 minutes, 12 and 2 minutes. Okay. Dovrebbe vedersi a un certo punto. Aspetta, non posso parlare io. Dodici. No, ma vado qua perché tanto non. Questo qui? No, ho chiuso tutto, non vedo più i messaggi. Welcome to everybody and thanks to be connected at this webinar, 5G, what will it change for the energy industry, organized by Trust IT in collaboration with IDC as an activity included in the project 5G, Global 5G European project. This project is oriented to provide a contribution to international vision of 5G networks, addressing requirements from different vertical industries with specific focus on market analysis, standardization, and policy and regulation. I'm Daniela Rao from IDC, and I'm happy to be here with Javier Valigno from Atos and Alistair Duke from BT. And all together, we will try to give you an overview about 5G potential and challenges for European energy sector. Javier Valino will share a presentation about joint opportunities for energy 5G use cases, and Alistair Duke will share a presentation about RNG5, enabling smart energy as a service. I will start with my next slides. Based on the IDC recent studies, I will try to summarize main utility expected change and how 5G will impact on the sector. Let me start from the IDC prediction. Can you go to the next slide, please? So just a minute to go to the next slide. Io però, okay, let me see. Okay, sorry, sorry. Okay, so let me start with the IDC prediction for utilities at worldwide level. In this chart, you can see on horizontal axis the timing to mainstream of this prediction, and on the vertical one, the wideness of the organizational impact, and in the bubble size, the indicator of the complexity or cost that an organization will incur in acting in this prediction. Many external factors have direct or indirect impact on the European utility business, and energy technology is shaking traditional utility value creation at its core. In parallel, digital technologies are disrupting decade-old processes, creating opportunities and threats to the traditional utility business model. 5G technology will support the next wave of utility business, mainly in the three areas that you can see in the bubble number 3, number 10, and number 7. Looking at the bubble number 3, the microgrids, through 2020, microgrids will reduce the need for bulk transmission system and creating the new revenue stream for up to 25% of utility. This will be the main event that will change the business model of utilities, not only in Europe, but at a worldwide level. In the bubble 10, you can see the prediction about the IT and operational technology security by the 2019, 30% of utility will integrate IT and operational technologies, cyber and physical security, data protection and privacy. As you can see, this bubble is the most important impact at the organization level, and also in terms of cost and again on the business model, on traditional business model of utility. And in the bubble 7, asset performance management, by the 2019, 75% of utilities will be using some form of APM to manage critical operational assets, leading to an improvement on the operational performance. This is back office operation that will change strongly in the next 2-3 years for all utility that would like to stay on the market and would like to achieve more users, more citizens, and improve their business. Looking at the innovation, inside the utilities sector. We did a survey past year on the European utilities, and we found that innovation accelerator are not so diffused. At the moment, the utilities are very, very conservative, looking at the adoption of innovation accelerators like IoT, augmented reality and virtual reality, robotics, cognitive system, and 3D printing. We will see that the usage at the moment is quite small, and only 40% have implemented at least one innovation accelerator use case. IoT has clearly taken the lead, even if half of the respondents have no plan in this, IoT at the moment is dedicated to remote access monitoring, sensor-based quality control, sensor-based staff identification and location, but the evolution seems very, very slow. The track to industrialization of these pilot projects seems to be very slow. Timing will be the critical factor for utility due to the wide impact of digital innovators on organization, people, and also on ICT budget. Looking at the ICT spending, we'll see that European utilities is spending at the moment for telecommunication service, hardware, software, and IT services and business services. They are spending about 21 billion euro, and this value will increase to 23 billion euro by the 2021, with an average growth of 3% per year. The spending value will not change so much overall for hardware, software, and telecommunication service, while for IT and business service will grow more than the market average, driven by the new procure models based on the cloud, based on the accelerator where we see we seen before, and also because new provider will be involved not only as a suppliers but also as a partner in wide project regarding adoption of new technologies, and new services will be necessary to this evolution of services made by provider that will be not only a system integrator but also consultancies and provider able to act as a partner in this roadmap towards the digital transformation evolution. The CIO of European utility are looking for in this moment are looking for to experiment more tools and mechanisms to measure the business value of new and old service delivered, to ensure that the infrastructure is open and adaptable to react to business environment change, and to identify ICT partner able to lead and stay close to the company along the digital transformation roadmap. Looking at the 5G and smart grid, we will see that the potential. Sorry. We see that the timing will be the critical factor for utilities and also for the networks license service deployment. We forecast that this deployment will take place from 2022 to achieve a full deployment and full application by 2024. As reported in the study by Huawei, China Telecom, and the State Grid Corporation of China, we think that the smart grid functionality enabled by 5G 5G's network slide will be tied up to intelligent distributed feeder automation, millisecond level precise load control, information acquisition for low voltage distribution system, and distributed power supplies. Timing will be the critical factor, and meanwhile, waiting for the 5G deployment, many services based to low power consumption and low bandwidth needs as utility methods will be deployed in Europe on low power wide area networks or narrowband IoT that satisfy the need of low power consumption and low levels of cost and high level of density and reliability. More recently, the standards have been agreed for implementing low power wide area networks connectivity on cellular networks and narrowband IoT and LTE-M, and several European mobile operators are now rolling out that upgrade. Over the next few years, we believe that mobile operators in Europe will prefer and will shift away from dedicated low power network in an unlicensed spectrum and towards low power networks over cellular networks, waiting for 5G network deployment. I'm ending here my presentation and change presenter to give the space to the room to Javier Valigno. ¿È partito o no?
Okay. Hello, good morning. I guess you can hear me now and you can see my screen. So good morning, everybody. First of all, let me thank you, Daniela, for this nice introduction, and also to the Global 5G project impersonated here by IDC and Trust IT for inviting me to this webinar. It is my very pleasure. So I will just use a couple of minutes to present myself and my company. I am Javier Valdino and I'm with Atos. And as you might know, Atos is an IT services company of over 100,000 employees around the globe. And we deliver mainly software and we have a strong business line in the company totally oriented to the energy sector. Personally, I am involved in the research and innovation department, which is the R&D hub for the whole Atos group, which is currently running more than 100 EU-funded projects. And inside this Atos Research and Innovation Department, I am involved in the energy sector. So I am conducting EU-funded projects for energy. And as we have also another sector in our department related to telecommunications. And personally, I also took part in some EU-funded projects on 3G, LTE, and 5G. I think we can close the loop, let's say, for this webinar. So This is the outline for my presentation today. I will share with you our view as Atos Research and Innovation regarding 5G and energy joint use cases. And in order to do so, I would like to start with a brief first block of slides, just for us to set the scene on the current energy sector challenges and how 5G is relevant to those challenges. And I will follow with a second part with the core message of this webinar, in my case, which is namely for potential, in our vision, very interesting use cases combining 5G and energy. So going directly to the first block, why is 5G relevant for the energy sector? Okay, so first of all, some figures regarding the energy sector. It is important to note that energy refers not only to electricity, but also to other vectors such as gas, water, or heat. It is a strategic sector for the European Union, and they are demonstrating it through the research program. And it is currently under a heavy digitalization process, which is resulting in a forecast of tripling the data analytics market by 2022. And we also expect the revenue, including all energy vectors, to double by 2023. Finally, we are currently moving from conventional energy sources to renewable energy sources, resulting on this foreseen impact. So what are the energy sector challenges we are facing nowadays? So first of all, the energy market liberalization and the renewable energy sources have deeply changed this sector. We are currently trying to get used to this new scenario. The introduction of smart grid technologies also affected the distribution networks and the peripheral nodes. Smart equipment, electric vehicles, and battery energy storage systems are changing the role of the prosumers in the energy value chain and the concept itself of the distribution organization. Then there is an increasing number of power and of renewable energy plants, and which are pushing infrastructures up to a critical limit. This is originating several criticalities such as reverse flows, hosting capacity, priority dispatching, negative prices, etc. So this is quite a great challenge. Then we have our communication-related problem related to the energy assets, as they differ essentially in their communication needs. We have some real-time needs and ultra-reliable link needs for some critical equipment, but on the other hand, we have also less critical devices which are more IoT-oriented. So the communication needs are very different. And finally, on top of all this complexity, we have security as a must, because given the criticality and the strategic nature of the asset we are managing, security must not be neglected. So I guess this is something we will see on other presentations as well. This is the so-called 5G triangle, and it has three vertices representing the relevant use cases for 5G. The first one is about enhanced mobile broadband, which is aiming at providing gigabits of bandwidth, and it would be especially interesting for energy sector for monitoring substations, smart meters, intelligent sensors, and so on, meaning or in the sense of its aggregated traffic. Then we have another use case for ultra-reliable low latency, which is critical for some infrastructure monitoring, which requires immediate feedback. And last but not least, we have massive IoT, which is also key for the connection of billions of terminals on the energy grid. So last slide on this first block, what are the 5G KPIs? So now we saw the scenario 5G is envisaging. Let's have a look also at the performance expectations for 5G, and more importantly, how can we map those KPIs or expectations into the energy challenges. So first of all, 5G is aims at increasing the wireless capacity, which is great for big data services, for instance, substation and smart meter management, and use of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, augmented cognition, all this stream of new hot topics. Then 5G also aims at reducing the average service creation time, which will impact on potential new market players on the energy sector. 5G also promises enhanced dense connectivity and better remote coverage, which is something very interesting for handling dispersed resources such as some energy assets, and also especially for smart meters in certain areas. Then we have also 5G promising substantial energy savings, which is quite convenient for reducing maintenance costs, especially on the communication layer. Another KPI for 5G is about the so-called zero perceived downtime, which is critical because we are handling some infrastructure which requires this kind of management, and also for the supply side safety. And finally, 5G reduced latency will impact on the energy sector real-time operation needs. So this concludes my overview of the challenges and the map with the 5G envisaged activities, and let's move forward for the next part of the presentation, in which I will dig deeper into a couple of use cases we foresee as relevant for joint collaboration between these two sectors. So the first of all, it is the concept of Internet of Energy. So Internet of Energy refers to the upgrading and automating of electricity infrastructures for energy producers, and this allows energy production to move forward more efficiently and cleanly. So in order to manage efficiently the energy supply and demand on the grid, the energy routers are required. Those energy routers are the ones marked in red in my presentation. They are the ones adjusting dynamically the energy distribution on the grid, and they are regulating autonomously the energy flows between the grid and other entities connecting to the grid. So the question here would be, is the current grid prepared for the introduction of the energy routers? For the time being, we are quite skeptical, but with the enhanced connectivity, low latency, and edge computing features of 5G, we are likely to foster this adoption. So it would be very important. And another concept in this respect is about energy curtailment. So 5G real communication and access to all dispersed devices, we can somehow smoothen this problem. Energy curtailment refers to forcing renewable sources to operate at low generation levels, as the production cannot be absorbed by the grid at a given time. But with better data monitoring and more precise energy generation and consumption forecasting, we can have more information, and we can prepare for avoiding such curtailing situations. So this is about Internet of Energy. How can we use 5G to foster the adoption of this concept, which is very relevant for energy, and it is seen as the future of the sector. Another use case, this is a very fancy and appealing use case. This is about using drones and augmented reality in collaboration with usual energy activities, and we can envisage at least two kinds of different applications. The first one is about performance monitoring. So as the image shows, we can, for instance, use heat cameras on drones for monitoring solar panels performance, or we can also foresee other applications, including performing dangerous tasks which are typically handled by operators like tower climbing, conducting signal tests, evaluating sites for sustainability, accessing routes and risk, and so on. And we can also have another group of applications, which is, for instance, automation of critical tasks, which includes getting energy infrastructure back online in a wake of disaster, for instance, utility management for professionals on the field, GNSS technology, 3D GIS technology, geospatial databases, computer graphics, use of augmented reality to render 3D models for underground networks. So the possibilities here are endless, because this is a very hot topic. Drones and augmented reality are producing new applications every day, and they are very, very interesting also for the energy sector to improve certain topics of its performance. So finally, my last use case, at least for this webinar. This is about resilience and reliability. This is certainly at the core of the energy sector philosophy. So we are covering here three main concepts. The first one is the so-called always on, and this is referring to high resilience and availability of the network to support critical services. For instance, to this respect, I was recently on a meeting with colleagues from IDC, which is the Portuguese utility, and they were stressing an interesting fact. They are required by contract to provide service availability of the energy network of 99.99%. And they were evaluating about using some cellular connectivity to somehow communicate their critical assets. And on their test, they were measuring in mean just 95% availability. And the most disgusting item in here was that in certain cases, when the network was down, they had to manually reboot the communication router to have the network online again. So this is something which is not acceptable for the energy sector. We cannot use cellular connectivity which is not allowing us to perform the availability which is required by contract. So 5G expectations in terms of availability are very promising, so that we can use this communication layer also in the energy sector. And talking also about always on, other topics include, for instance, emergency support to guarantee the business continuity, meaning both data and voice, and also coverage guarantee in all the regions of the country. Then regarding the second pillar, which is risk management, this refers to critical infrastructure support. And another good example here is on the latest snowstorm in New York this year, the telecommunication towers were flooded, so they had to manually shut them down before they were seriously damaged. And the subsequent power up process required 3 full days. So this is also unacceptable for the energy sector. And especially things in 5G regarding self-healing and self-configurable networks are capital here, because then we can recover from a disaster more quickly and efficiently. And regarding risk management, for instance, we have some other additional examples, including high security on data transfer, avoiding locking situations, and, for instance, better managing contract migration. And finally, regarding service control, we need high service control for the energy sector. We need cost optimizations in the first place, and we need flexibility and scalability to support future events such as regulatory changes. So we need the network to be flexible to allow us to adapt to the future. So what is the takeover message here? So we are moving towards a fully digitalized energy sector. So service provisioning, meaning energy services, should be at the core of the sector operations, while communications must not influence this core. I mean, communications are critical for sure, but the energy sector wants to take them for for granted and just forget they are there. So they cannot be a source of problem. We have plenty of other sources of problems like that. So 5G will be key to overcome the already described barriers and help us build advanced and valuable joint use cases. And as you can see on the figure on this slide, this is Atos' vision for topics impacting our business in the energy sector. And as you can see, 5G is very, very relevant to us. So that's all from my side. I hope you found this presentation interesting. And as we will have the question slot at the end of the webinar, I will then leave the floor to Alistair and the next presentation. So thank you very much for your attention.
Yes. Hello. We're just actually changing the agenda. We'd like, Alistair, could you make Massimo Bertoncini close the presenter, please? Massimo had a problem. He arrived late, but now he's with us, and you should be able to pass him on as the speaker, as the presenter, make presenter. Oh, sorry, I've got Alistair actually muted. Sorry, where have you gone? Is that okay, Alistair?
Yep, I've made him presenter, so he's still
Okay.
muted though, I see. So hopefully he'll
Yes.
unmute and start.
Filomena, puoi venire? Massimo's now unmuted. Sorry, there's some delay in the system. Okay, thank you.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good morning to everybody. And I'm very sorry, first of all, due to my last reply to your request for presentation. And unfortunately, I have to leave even in 10-12 minutes. So thanks to Alistair, to the organizer, for allowing me to shift the order of the presentations. So I don't know how you managed to proceed, because I'm not seeing in my screen the presentation which I circulated to you a few minutes before the starting of the presentation of the webinar. So are you managing this or something different? What do you prefer? Hello? Hello?
Massimo, you can upload it directly. You are now presenter.
Okay, so but I just sent you this presentation, but
Yeah,
how?
You just have to go on to show screen and then click on on your presentation and put it into presentation mode. Okay. Thanks everybody for bearing with us.
It is not clear to me if you already received my presentation. You would like to give the control to myself or something different?
Yeah, I've given you the control, Massimo, so that you can move the slides.
Okay, so but the slide. Okay,
so you go on to show screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you upload your presentation. When you upload your presentation, click on the actual PPT or whatever version you're on the presentation, so that everybody will see this presentation.
Again, since I completely new, I'm assuming that you have my presentation and
No, Massimo, we don't have your presentation. This is why you are the presenter. Okay.
Okay, so
Basta andare su show screen and then click on your presentation. Okay. So when I'm coming, yes, we think we're making progress. Oh, okay, you can present as directly yourself. Hello, then. Welcome, Massimo. Bertoncino from engineering and coordinator of the NRG5 project. Hello. You can start
Sorry,
speaking now. Okay.
again, I have some problem. I was considering that you were, as from your request, to have my presentation anyway.
Yes.
I will try anyway just to start with presentation, but I'm not able just to upload. Maybe you could do offline. It is important for the time being just to start just in these few minutes, and eventually you could distribute offline my presentation to all the attenders and have together with Alistair eventually answering afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that then, Alice. Then I'll put Alice to them back on as panelist. Okay. Thank you, Massimo. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you. Okay. My name is Massimo Bertoncini. I'm the director for smart energy projects within R&D in engineering Informatica, Italy, which is one of the largest ICT service and technology company in Italy. Just one question. Are you hearing me very well?
We can hear you and we can see you, Massimo. Okay.
But you could hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I can go. Actually, between many other things, engineering is strategically interested to investigate business-wide the convergence between ICT, 5G, and smart energy grids. We are having a number of projects at the frontier between R&D and innovation, which covers all the value chain of the innovation in smart energy grids. In some of these projects, we are working together with Atos, for instance. So we know very well even Javier and his colleagues. And in that respect, differently from the Atos very nice presentation indeed, in these 5 minutes I'm trying to focus on one specific project, one H2020 project, where the things which more or less Javier is presented, like nice to have, for us is something which we are on progress. So not fully 100%, but the majority of the use case which have been presented is already in very well in progress within the framework of this NRG5 project. NRG5 projects means enabling smart energy as a service via 5G mobile network advances, and engineering is acting as project coordinator. We are having a number of very relevant partners, including British Telecoms, for instance. That's why Alistair will be maybe eventually focusing on more technical architecture and concept, which we are investigating within this project. What is relevant in this very few minutes is just to focus on the use case which we are considering in this project and why we consider that there are relevance for the smart energy grids. Because you should not forget that within the consortium of this NRG5 project, we are not only technological partners and experts in scientists and practitioners and companies from the telecommunication fields, but we are putting together even specialists from the smart energy domains, including gas operators, including electricity operators, including aggregators. So it is important for us just to capture and to gather all the information from their side and to come up with a very relevant expertise, a very relevant position on what could be of interest and relevant at the interplay between 5G and energy. In that respect, it was already underlined by former speakers and even by Daniela in its very nice overview of the energy arena in the next year. the situation for the time being is quite unclear for the smart energy stakeholders because for the moment it is very hard for them to foresee real business from moving forward from their closed communication networks to more open yet stronger environments like the 5G. In that respect, what we are doing together with these guys is just to understand under which condition, which market and regulatory conditions, a family of use case could be considered as potential killer application for them. In that respect, we have coming up with a family of use case. In particular, we have a first family of use case which are mostly tailored to be utilized significantly by power network operators, in particular transmission system operator and distribution system operators. And in that respect, we are considering a PMU, so synchrophasor-based near real-time monitoring for wide area monitoring and control. So allowing this significant operator just to have a very tight monitoring and control of the network. And this, of course, this is something which necessarily include even cyber security exposure. So this PMU based near real-time monitoring control, it is something which it is at the interplace between advanced and fine-grained monitoring control and even cyber security management. In this respect, we strongly believe that we are able to foresee in 3 or 5 years from now a very specific business in that respect. In cooperation with this and what we are currently start to implement within the Energy 5 project, belonging to the same family of use case tailored to power network operators, it is the aerial predictive maintenance. It is quite similar to what Javier presented before as nice to have. So we are already doing this. So we are very happy that in the community we could find even consensus what could be relevant even for the utility. So we have in this use case a drone with a camera mounted drone, which is illustrating for asset management or even upon a specific security request or specific occurrence, either prediction, either occurrence taking place. These are drones overseeing a specific area in which there are a number of critical assets from the power network operators or for gas network operators. And in that case, 5G is going just to utilize both mobile broadband, so for transmitting between the camera and even the control center for the analysis if something is going wrong. A second family of use case is related just to end users aggregators or flexibility providers. So in that case, the basic premise, as it was illustrated by Daniel and even by Javier, is that the emerging trend for smart energy grids is that we are going towards a cellularization of the smart energy grids. So in the future, we could imagine, of course not now, but maybe in 5 to 10 years from now, that we could be having a number of more cellular systems like microgrids and having exchange between different microgrids as a normal way for managing in a more appropriate way the energy flow among different microgrids. In that respect, we will be considering a second use case in which we are going to have the optimized management of aggregated flexibility, leveraging of demand response, which is going just to utilize even a couple of different vertices of the 5G triangle, so in particular machine-to-machine communication and even ultra-low level for tight latency requirement. The third family is something which could be possible to be considered as a backbone on the top of which the former two families are elaborating their agenda. We call this as a mixed simple use cases, which are tailored to both end users and power network operators. And in that case, we are going just to have a near real-time metering, but the metering in that respect is not considered like it is now, so having flow of data every 15 flow of reading every 15 minutes, but this is something which is taking place as we could see in the project, even company-wise, in which there is the convergence between the metering application, the WOMS application, and even the SCADA application. So you could have a more decentralized and more, distributed situational awareness. In each of these monitoring points, you are having the overlapping between the metering infrastructure, for instance, and the PMU-based infrastructure. In that case, 5G could be greatly beneficial even for energy operators, and in particular for the energy operators in the future, where possibly we are seeing this advent of the increasing decentralization leveraged on the microgrid. So this is my.
So thank you, Massimo. Okay, thank you very much. That's very insightful. So we're taking questions at the end. I'd just like to pass the floor now to Alistair. Okay, Alistair, you can. I'll give you this screen as well. There you go. You should be able to upload your slide now, your presentation, Alistair, now. Lovely, thank you.
Okay, so hopefully you can see my slides. So thank you for the invitation to speak today. My name's Alistair Duke. I work for BT Research and Innovation, so we're the R&D division of British Telecommunications, and we're partners in the Energy 5 project that Massimo has just been describing. So in my presentation, I'm going to go into slightly more detail on a particular aspect that we're focusing on in Energy 5. So the slide that you can see here is basically showing the 5G architecture, and as we've overlaid the areas of focus that the project is contributing from a technical point of view. So at the bottom you have the radio access network, where we're developing some techniques to support devices using the radio access network. So not just cellular, but other networks as well, and how to integrate those to satisfy the use cases that Massimo described. So where you have millions of devices potentially. And then we're also building on top of the edge cloud capability that 5G is going to provide. So here we're looking at what we can deploy into the edge to support those use cases in terms of virtual network functions, particular to energy, but also more generally for industrial IoT, for example, and I'll come on to those in a minute. And then we're also looking at the domain-specific management and orchestration that's particular for the energy sector. So building on top of the open source Mano from Etsy to look into what particular requirements are there for the energy sector, for critical infrastructure that we can build in there. So focusing on the mobile edge cloud, we're building a set of virtual network functions, which I've summarized here, and I'll go into a bit more detail on the first three of those. So I mentioned about terminal self-discovery. So how can we support equipment to get connected to a 5G network when they don't necessarily have direct connection to a 5G base station? We see that as important for the energy sector. And secondly, coupled with that, once you have that connection, how can you organize that and manage that in real time so that your devices are always maintaining the most appropriate connection? Thirdly, we're looking at something called machine cloud machine, which is kind of an extension of machine to machine. where we're looking at supporting devices in the network with a virtual twin in the XMEC. So we represent those devices as a virtual or digital twin, and that supports, devices with constraints, for example, around processing or connectivity, so that you're not continually polling those devices. And then also looking at mobility management, so extending existing mobility management approaches to cope with all the different kinds of devices that we expect to be in use. And then the last two are kind of around security. So Javier mentioned that this was obviously important for critical infrastructure. So what techniques can we use to support security, things like physical and clonable functions in devices, and also using blockchain both for security and for smart contracts, so for energy contracts. Okay, so I'll give a little scenario and then introduce how we're going to use these VNFs. So this is about a smart meter that's connecting wants to connect to the network, so it's switched on. And as you can see at the bottom there, you may have ones that don't have direct connection to a 5G network. They may be in a basement or some other area where they can't get connection. So we're looking at supporting them by allowing them to connect via other devices which may have a direct connection to the network. And then once they have that connection, get them registered on mobility management, give them a virtual twin in the edge cloud, and make that available to the applications, such that they can then find out what's going on, at a customer's premises, for example. So the terminal self-discovery is based around beacons and registration. So you can see a set of devices there. So the devices P2, P3, and P4 don't necessarily have a direct or not in range of the base station, but they can use other radio networks or other networks to connect to the base station via other devices. So they will send out a beacon, which is then forwarded to other devices in range, and eventually, hopefully, you then reach something that is in range, which is then able to forward it to the base station where it's handled by the terminal self-discovery VNF. And that can then carry out the registration with mobility management and create a path, which is then stored in the self-organizing network VNF, which briefly is as shown here. So we have a set of paths that allow you to then contact that particular device. And there are various constraints that you may want to consider when forming that or sending out the settings and creating that path, such as the battery of device, the stored energy in devices, whether they need to switch to other devices perhaps that have more energy, the available bandwidth and the cost involved, and so forth. And that can be then maintained, and you always use the best path to reach a particular device and allow that to communicate. And those settings are then sent out via the self-organizing network VNF. And then the final area, as I mentioned, is machine cloud machine. And this is using a combination of digital twins at the edge, but also more long-term storage in the cloud. So we have a data hub in the cloud, which will record information over time. So for example, a smart meter, its latest reading would be on its digital twin at the edge, but then historical values would be stored in the data hub. And both of those would be available to applications depending on their requirements, whether it's for low latency, very real-time data, or for longer term data from a customer, for example. And finally, our initial implementation on MCM is based around the following. So on the left-hand side, we have currently a smart meter emulator, which in the project, we will obviously, when we get to the deployment phase, we will be using real next generation smart meters. We're using Eclipse Ditto as the machine cloud machine VNF to create the virtual twins. And then any events on those virtual twins are transmitted to our data hub in the cloud, which is then available for applications. So that's the current implementation. So in summary, coming back to the energy trends that both Danielle and Javier have mentioned, If we're going to move away from this kind of end-to-end approach from power generation to consumption into a more smart grid type approach, we're going to need the support of 5G, and the use cases that we've described and the technology that we're developing in Energy 5 are the kind of the next steps in allowing that to happen, which we'll evaluate, pilot and evaluate within our case studies and use cases within the project. Okay, that's a quick overview of some of the technical aspects of the 5G work that's going on in Energy 5.
Thank you very much, Alice. That's very interesting. I'll just pass the floor then now to Daniela. If I can unmute. Sorry, it's taking my system a long time to unmute the microphones, which is why we've had a few delays. Oops. Here she is now. Okay. Okay, Daniela,
Okay.
hello.
Many thanks to Javier and also to Alistair and Massimo. We are receiving some questions from the connected people, and we are going to answer them in the next days. At the moment, I collected only 2 questions, one for Javier, another one for Alistair. I will start with the question to Javier. Do you expect these use cases to be implemented in the next future? This is the question for Javier. And Javier,
Hello.
hello. Did you hear my question?
Yes, yes. So thank you very much for the question.
Some minutes of delay. Okay.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, so indeed a very good question. So I can say that the use cases I presented are our top list priorities in terms of research and innovation. So they are in our streamline to be implemented. And we can mention that, for instance, the European Community is expecting the energy vertical in 5G to be covered by a research and innovation action through a call this year. So we can therefore use this as placeholder for implementation. So we will do our best to have a project in this call and start implementing those use cases in the real world. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sorry, Daniela. We're running out of time, unfortunately, for a lot of questions. But what we suggest you do is we'll send everybody an email and make the provide you with some post webinar recording. And then if you have any questions, then maybe we can you can send them to us via email, and we can set up a LinkedIn conversation on the 5G PPP LinkedIn group or something similar, and we can also maybe have another webinar in the future where we could probably bring in some of the other aspects like the business case and some of the security issues and a bit more understanding about the deployment timeframes and the different stakeholders that will be affected. I think those could be some interesting topics for the future. So, Daniela, I'll pass the floor back to you to say goodbye and thank you to everybody.
Yeah. Again, thanks to everybody to stay with us and to spend this hour together. And many thanks again to Javier, Alistair, and Massimo, and also to you, Stephanie. And see you next time, maybe in another webinar. And bye-bye, and thank you again.
Thanks, everybody, and especially to our panelists. Thank you. That's very much to Javier, Alistair, and Massimo. Thank you. Bye-bye.